The door was open. I know I locked it. I always lock it, especially after what happened the last time. But there it was. The back door of the Mercer house, standing 6 inches open at 2:30 in the morning. And I could hear someone breathing in the kitchen. My name is Jade Simmons. I'm 26 years old. I make my living through gig work, DoorDash, TaskRabbit, whatever pays. But my main income comes from house sitting. It's perfect work for someone like me. I don't have a traditional schedule, I don't like offices, and I'm good at being alone. I've always been comfortable with solitude. Even as a kid, I preferred my own company. While other people need noise and activity and constant stimulation, I've always been happiest in quiet spaces, empty rooms, the gentle hum of a house settling around me. There's something peaceful about being alone, something safe. Or at least, there used to be. Before the Mercer house. Before I learned that some houses aren't really empty, even when they're supposed to be. Before I learned that solitude can be a trap. I found the job on a house-sitting app called Trusted Sitter. The Mercers needed someone to watch their place in Sherman Oaks for 3 weeks while they visited family in Europe. Standard gig. Water the plants, bring in the mail, make sure the house looks lived in. The pay was good. $2,500 for 3 weeks, plus I could stay there rent-free. That's the real benefit of house sitting. You get paid to live in houses you could never afford otherwise. And the Mercer place was beautiful. It was a mid-century modern on a quiet street. 4 bedrooms, pool in the back, floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out on a garden filled with succulents and Japanese maples. The Mercers had clearly put money into it. Everything was tasteful, expensive, the kind of quiet wealth that doesn't need to announce itself. Mrs. Mercer walked me through the house before they left. She was in her 50s, elegant, nervous in a way that I initially attributed to travel anxiety. Some people get that way before big trips, worried about leaving their homes, worried about forgetting something important, worried about all the things that could go wrong while they're gone. I'd seen it 100 times, but looking back now, I don't think Mrs. Mercer was nervous about leaving. I think she was nervous about what she was leaving me with. The alarm code is our anniversary, she said. 07/14/1992. You'll want to set it every night. Of course. And the back door. Make sure you lock it, the deadbolt and the chain. Both. No problem. She hesitated. Her hands were shaking slightly. I noticed but didn't comment. Like she wanted to say something else. Something she'd been rehearsing. Something she knew she should tell me but couldn't quite force past her lips. Is everything okay, Mrs. Mercer? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Just be careful at night. The house makes sounds sometimes. Old pipes, settling foundation. It can seem like... She trailed off. Like what? Like footsteps, but it's just the house, I promise. She was lying. I know that now. But in the moment, I believed her. I should have asked more questions. Should have pushed harder. Should have wondered why a woman about to leave for a 3-week vacation looked so relieved to be going. But I didn't. I just took the keys and watched them drive away. And then I was alone, in a house that wasn't really empty. The first night was fine. I explored the house, made myself dinner in their gourmet kitchen, watched TV in their living room with the sound system that cost more than my car. I wandered through the rooms, admired the artwork on the walls, looked through their book collection, found a bottle of wine in the kitchen and poured myself a glass. They'd said to make myself at home, so I did. I went to bed around 11, set the alarm like Mrs. Mercer told me, locked the back door, deadbolt and chain, both. I remember thinking how nice it was to be in a real house instead of my cramped apartment, how peaceful it felt, how safe. I fell asleep in the guest room, which had blackout curtains and the most comfortable mattress I'd ever slept on. The room was perfect. Clean sheets that smelled like lavender, pillows that supported my neck just right, the gentle hum of central air. I felt safe, comfortable, like I belonged there. That should have been my first warning. Empty houses aren't supposed to feel welcoming. They're supposed to feel empty. But this one felt occupied. Like someone was there with me, like I wasn't alone at all. I told myself it was just the house, just the newness of the environment, just My brain adjusting to unfamiliar surroundings. I slept better than I had in months. But here's the thing that I didn't notice until the next morning. I woke up at 7, made coffee, went to check on the plants by the back door, and the chain was undone. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the chain, hanging loose against the doorframe. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. I stood there for what felt like hours, trying to understand how this could have happened. I had locked it. I was certain I had locked it. I could remember the sound of it sliding into place, the click of the deadbolt, the satisfying finality of securing the house for the night. I could picture myself doing it, could feel the cool metal of the chain against my fingers, could hear the soft metallic clink as it settled into position. But there it was, undone, like it had never been locked at all. I told myself I must have imagined locking it, must have thought about doing it without actually doing it. It happens sometimes when you're tired, when you're in a new place, when your brain is processing a lot of new information. Your brain fills in the gaps, creates memories that feel real but aren't. That's what I told myself. That's what I needed to believe. I locked it again, deadbolt and chain both, and I went about my day. The second night, I was more careful. I checked the back door 3 times before bed, pulled on the chain to make sure it was secure, tested the deadbolt, even took a photo with my phone. Time-stamped evidence that I had locked the door. I was starting to doubt myself, starting to wonder if Mrs. Mercer was right about the house making me imagine things. Maybe it was the unfamiliar environment. Maybe it was being alone in a big house. Maybe it was just my brain playing tricks on me. But I needed proof. Proof that I wasn't going crazy. Proof that I could trust my own memory. I went to sleep at 10:30. The house was quiet. The neighborhood was quiet. Everything felt normal, safe. I let myself relax, let myself believe that the first night had been a fluke, a one-time thing, nothing to worry about. I was wrong. I woke up at 3:17, not sure why, just awake, wide awake, like something had pulled me out of sleep. I lay in the dark, listening. The house was silent. But it was the wrong kind of silent. The kind of silent that happens when something that was making noise suddenly stops. Like when you're in the woods and suddenly all the birds go quiet. Like when you're in a crowded room and everyone stops talking at once. The silence of anticipation. The silence of something about to happen. I got up, grabbed my phone, walked through the dark house toward the kitchen. I didn't turn on any lights. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. Some primal part of my brain that knew light would make me visible. That darkness was safer. That whatever was in this house could see in the dark, but maybe I could hide. The back door was open, 6 inches, cold night air drifting through the gap, and the chain was undone again. But here's the part that made me stop breathing. I looked at the photo on my phone, the one I'd taken before bed. The chain was locked in the photo, clearly locked, time-stamped 10:27 p.m. I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't forgotten. Someone had unlocked the chain from the inside. While I was sleeping, I called the police. They came out, checked the house, found nothing. No signs of forced entry, no signs of anyone else, no fingerprints that didn't belong, no footprints in the garden, nothing. They searched every room, checked every closet, looked under every bed. The house was empty. Just me, alone, the way it was supposed to be. They suggested I might be sleepwalking. Stress, they said. New environment, they said. Some people unlock doors in their sleep without remembering. It happens more than you'd think. I wanted to believe them. I really did. I wanted there to be a logical explanation, something that made sense, something that didn't involve admitting that I was alone in a house with something I couldn't see. But something in my gut said they were wrong. Something in my gut said I was in danger. The third night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with all the lights on, watching the back door. I had my phone in one hand and a kitchen knife in the other. Not that I thought a knife would help against whatever was in this house, but it made me feel better. Gave me the illusion of control. The chain stayed locked all night. I watched it for hours, watched the shadows move across the kitchen as the moon rose and fell, watched the lights from passing cars sweep across the ceiling. watched the first gray light of dawn creep through the windows. Nothing happened. The chain stayed exactly where I'd left it. I watched the sun come up, feeling exhausted, but vindicated. Whatever was happening, it only happened when I wasn't watching, when I let my guard down, when I closed my eyes. As long as I stayed awake, as long as I kept watching, I was safe. But I couldn't stay awake forever. And whatever was in this house knew that. By night 4, I was a wreck. I'd barely slept. I was jumping at every sound. I'd started hearing things that weren't there. Footsteps in empty hallways, whispers in empty rooms, the creak of floorboards as something moved through the house. My eyes were constantly scanning. My heart was constantly racing. I was running on coffee and fear. I considered leaving, calling the Mercers and telling them I couldn't do the job, forfeiting the money, going home. But I needed the money. Rent was due in a week, and I refused to let an old house make me feel crazy. I was a professional. I'd done this 100 times. I wasn't going to be scared away by a chain that didn't stay locked and shadows that didn't stay in one place. So I set up a camera, pointed it at the back door, hit record, and forced myself to sleep. I woke up at 2:47. The house was silent. Too silent. I checked my phone. The camera app showed the back door, still locked, chain in place. I exhaled, started to relax, started to think maybe I'd finally gotten through a night without anything happening. And then I noticed something in the video, something that made my blood run cold. In the corner of the frame, a shadow that wasn't there when I'd started recording, a shadow that looked like a person standing in the hallway, watching the camera, watching me. I scrubbed back through the footage, watched the hours tick by on fast forward. Midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., nothing. 2:37. The shadow appeared. It didn't walk into frame. It didn't emerge from anywhere. It was just suddenly there, like it had always been there, and my eyes were finally adjusting to see it. A dark shape, human-sized, standing perfectly still, watching. I watched the footage 3 times, trying to convince myself it was a trick of the light, a camera glitch, anything except what it looked like. But the shadow was consistent, solid, real. And as I watched, I could swear it moved, just slightly. Just enough to tell me it knew it was being recorded. Just enough to tell me it didn't care. I ran, grabbed my keys, my phone, my bag, didn't bother with anything else. I was out the front door and in my car before I let myself breathe. I stood there in the driveway with the doors locked, shaking, watching the house. My hands couldn't stop trembling. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. I kept telling myself to start the car, to drive away, to put as much distance between myself and that house as possible. But I couldn't move, couldn't look away, couldn't stop watching the windows for any sign of movement. All the lights were off. The house looked peaceful, normal, like nothing had ever been wrong. But in the window of the guest room, my room, I saw something move, a shape, standing at the window, watching me. It was just a silhouette, just a dark shape against a slightly darker room. But I knew it was looking at me, knew it could see me in my car, knew it was waiting to see what I would do next. I drove to a hotel, didn't sleep, just sat there until morning, watching the door, watching the windows, watching for any sign that the thing from the Mercer house had followed me here. Every creak made me jump. Every shadow made me hold my breath. Every car that passed outside made me wonder if it was someone coming to get me. When the sun came up, I called Mrs. Mercer. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I'd rehearsed what I was going to say a dozen times. But when she answered, all that came out was, "I need to tell you something," I said. There was a long pause, so long I thought the call had dropped. Then, quietly, "You saw him." It wasn't a question. She knew. She'd always known. "Who is he?" Another pause. "We don't know. He's been there since we bought the house. We've tried everything. Priests, mediums, investigators. Nothing works." "Why didn't you warn me?" "Because people don't take the job if we warn them, and we can't leave the house empty. That's when he gets worse. He needs someone there, someone to watch." "What do you mean, watch?" Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. He likes to be seen, likes to know someone knows he's there. As long as someone's watching, he stays in the shadows. But if no one's there, she didn't finish. She didn't have to. I understood. The thing in the house needed an audience, and I had been its audience for almost a week. What happens if no one watches? I asked. Silence. Then, the last time the house was empty for more than a few days. That was before we bought it. The previous owners left for a month. When they came back, she swallowed. They found things. Arranged things. Their furniture moved into strange patterns, their photographs rearranged, messages written on the walls that hadn't been there before. What kind of messages? You left me alone, over and over. You left me alone, in every room. I didn't go back, forfeited the payment, found a new app, new clients, new houses, but I can't shake the feeling that something followed me from Sherman Oaks. Because sometimes late at night, I hear footsteps in my apartment. When I check the door, the chain is undone. I've set up cameras. Nothing shows up. I've had the locks changed. It doesn't help. Whatever was in the Mercer house, it learned something about me. Learned that I was good at being alone. Learned that I was comfortable with solitude. Learned that I wouldn't tell anyone. Because who would believe me? Mrs. Mercer called me last week. They're back from Europe. They found another house sitter. Someone new. Someone who doesn't know. She asked me not to say anything. Asked me to let them handle it their way. I wanted to warn the new sitter. I really did. But I couldn't find the words. Couldn't explain what I'd seen. Couldn't make it sound like anything other than the ravings of someone who'd lost their mind. So I stayed quiet. And now there's someone else in that house. Someone else being watched. Someone else learning that they were never really alone. If you ever take a house-sitting job, ask questions. Lots of questions. Find out why the last person left. Find out why the owners seem so eager to get away. And if something feels wrong, if the house feels too quiet or the shadows seem too dark, trust your gut. Get out. Some houses aren't really empty, and some things that live in them don't like being left alone. I still think about the Mercer house sometimes. Wonder if it's still there. Wonder if the thing inside is still watching. Wonder if the new sitter has figured out the truth yet. Part of me wants to drive back there, to warn them, to tell them what I know. But a bigger part of me knows it wouldn't matter. Because the Mercers already know. They've always known. And they keep hiring people anyway. Because the house needs an audience, and there's always someone desperate enough to take the job. The silence woke me up. Not a sound. The silence. In a city like San Francisco, there should always be noise. Traffic, sirens, foghorns from the bay. But at 3:12 in the morning, the night went quiet. Completely quiet. And that's when I knew something was very, very wrong. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm 31 years old. I've been a professional dog walker in the Bay Area for 5 years. It's good work if you don't mind the hours. Early mornings, late nights, lots of time alone with other people's pets in other people's neighborhoods. Most people don't think about dog walking as a real job. They think it's something teenagers do for extra cash, something you do between real careers. But in a city like San Francisco, where people work 80-hour weeks and pay $4,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment, professional dog walkers are essential. We're the ones who make sure their dogs don't go insane from being cooped up all day. We're the ones who walk their neighborhoods at hours when no one else is around. We're the ones who know the city's secrets, which streets are safe, which parks close at dusk, which houses have motion sensors, and which ones sit dark. I know San Francisco better than most people who've lived here their whole lives. I know which streets to avoid, which parks are safe after dark, which houses have motion sensor lights and which ones don't. I've walked these streets 1,000 times, seen things that would make most people nervous. But I've never been afraid. Not until last September. I thought I knew all the dangers. I was wrong. Because the thing that started following me last September, that wasn't in any guidebook. That wasn't something you could avoid by changing your route. It started with a job I shouldn't have taken. A late-night walk in Pacific Heights. The client was new, a tech executive who traveled constantly and had a golden retriever named Bourbon who needed walking at 11 p.m. every Tuesday and Thursday. Good pay, easy route. I said yes without thinking. That's the thing about gig work. You say yes to everything. You can't afford to be picky. Can't afford to ask too many questions. Can't afford to wonder why a tech executive needs his dog walked at 11 p.m. instead of a normal hour. You just take the job and hope for the best. Most of the time it works out. Most of the time the weird hours are just rich people being rich people. This time was different. This time, saying yes was the biggest mistake of my life. The first few walks were normal. Bourbon was a good dog, calm, well-trained, happy to trot along beside me while I listened to podcasts. He was the kind of dog that made the job easy. Didn't pull on the leash, didn't bark at other dogs, didn't try to chase squirrels, just walked beside me like he'd done it 1,000 times before. We'd walk the same route every time. Up Fillmore to Broadway, along Broadway to Lyon, down Lyon to Green, back to the house. 45 minutes. Same path, same time, same everything. I like the routine. There's something comforting about doing the same thing over and over. Something safe about knowing exactly what comes next. I should have known that something was wrong when Bourbon started acting strange. He'd never growled before, never hesitated on our walks, never refused to walk past certain houses. But around week 3, he started getting nervous, started pulling at the leash, started looking over his shoulder like something was following us. I told myself he was just reacting to my stress. Dogs can sense when their humans are anxious. But looking back, I think he sensed something else entirely. I think he knew, before I did, that something was watching us. The third week, I noticed someone watching. It was a Tuesday night, clear and cold, the kind of night where your breath makes clouds and the stars are sharp overhead. Bourbon and I were on Broadway, passing one of those massive mansions that looks like it belongs in a movie. The kind of house that costs $20 million and sits empty most of the year because the owners live in 3 different cities. I happened to glance at a window on the second floor. Just a casual look. The kind of glance you make 1,000 times a night without thinking. And someone was standing there, watching me. I stopped walking. Bourbon pulled at his leash, confused. I stared at the window. The figure didn't move, just stood there, perfectly still, watching. I couldn't see their face, just a silhouette, dark against the darker room behind them, not moving, just standing, watching. The moment stretched. 10 seconds, 20. Bourbon whined. I forced myself to look away, forced myself to keep walking, told myself it was nothing. A homeowner looking out their window, an insomniac passing time. People watch the street all the time. It doesn't mean anything. But I couldn't shake the feeling. The certainty that whoever was in that window wasn't just watching the street. They were watching me specifically, and they had been waiting. But the next Thursday, they were there again. Same window, same silhouette, same motionless watching. And the Tuesday after that. And the Thursday after that. Every single walk. Same time, same window, same figure. Like they were waiting for me. But here's the thing about that house that bothered me most. The house was supposed to be empty. I knew because I walked past it every time. There was never a car in the driveway, never a light on inside, never any mail in the mailbox, never any sign that anyone lived there at all. The lawn was overgrown, the windows were dusty. The whole place had the look of somewhere abandoned, somewhere forgotten, somewhere that no one had visited in years. But every night at the same time in the same window, the figure appeared. Never any sign of life, except for the figure in the window. I started varying my route, taking different streets, avoiding that house, telling myself I was being paranoid, telling myself that coincidences happen, telling myself that not everything means something. But it didn't matter, because now I was seeing the figure everywhere, a silhouette in a window on Green Street, a shadow in a doorway on Divisadero, a shape at the end of an alley off Union, always watching, always still, always just far enough away that I couldn't see their face, but close enough that I knew they could see mine. I started to think I was going crazy. Stress, sleep deprivation, the kind of paranoia that comes from spending too much time alone at night. The city has a way of getting to you. All those strangers, all that darkness, all those windows with people you'll never meet, living lives you'll never know. It can make you see things that aren't there. It can make you feel watched even when you're not. That's what I told myself. That's what I wanted to believe. I told my roommate about it. She said I was probably just noticing things I'd always ignored before. The city's full of people. Some of them look out windows. It doesn't mean they're following you. I wanted to believe her, I really did. But then the figure started getting closer. The first time I saw it on the street, I almost convinced myself I was imagining things. It was a Tuesday night, 2 a.m. Bourbon and I were on Lion Street near the park. Bourbon was sniffing a fire hydrant, taking his time the way dogs do. I was looking at my phone, checking a text, not paying attention. I looked up, and someone was standing at the end of the block, perfectly still, just standing there, looking at me. The streetlight was behind them. All I could see was the silhouette, the outline of a person, human-shaped, human-sized. But something about the way they stood was wrong. Too still, too patient, like a photograph of a person instead of an actual person. I froze. Bourbon growled, a low, warning growl, the kind of sound he'd never made before. The figure didn't move, didn't react, just stood there, watching. I turned around, walked the other way, fast, heart pounding, hands shaking. When I looked back, the figure was gone. The street was empty, like they'd never been there at all. After that, I started seeing them everywhere, at the end of every block, around every corner, always just standing, always just watching, always just far enough away that I couldn't make out their features. I stopped taking the Pacific Heights job, made excuses, passed it to another walker, told the client I had a scheduling conflict. I thought getting away from that neighborhood would help. Thought if I just changed my routine, everything would go back to normal. I was so naive. Because the figure wasn't tied to Pacific Heights. It wasn't tied to any specific location. It was tied to me. And changing my route didn't change anything. It just gave the figure new places to watch me from. I started seeing it outside my apartment, standing on the sidewalk across the street, watching my window. I'd look away, look back, gone. I set up cameras, security cameras, doorbell cameras, and cameras in every room, pointing at every window, recording 24/7, nothing. The figure never appeared on any recording, like it only existed when I was looking, like it needed to be seen, like my attention was what made it real. That's when I realized the truth. It wasn't following me because I had done something wrong. It was following me because I had noticed it, because I had looked at that window on Broadway, because I had seen it watching, and now it would never stop watching me back. It's been 4 months. I've stopped walking dogs, stopped going out at night, stopped doing anything that puts me alone in the dark. But it doesn't matter, because I still see the figure, every night, standing outside my window, closer than before. Last week, I woke up at 3:12 in the morning. The city was silent, completely silent. No traffic, no sirens, no foghorns, just silence. Deep, unnatural silence. The kind of silence that shouldn't exist in a city of 800,000 people. I lay in bed, listening, waiting for a sound. Any sound. The silence pressed against my ears like a physical weight. Then I heard something. A tap on glass. I looked at my window. The figure was standing on my fire escape. Right there, 3 feet away, looking in. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, could only stare. My body was frozen. My mind was screaming. But nothing worked. I was trapped in my own skin. And for the first time, I saw its face. It looked like me. Not exactly, not a perfect copy, but close enough to be recognizable. Close enough to be deeply, fundamentally wrong. It was me, but with no expression, no emotion, no life in the eyes, like a mask made of my own face, like something wearing me as a costume, like a photograph that had learned to move. The proportions were slightly off. The features didn't quite align. The eyes were too far apart. The mouth was too wide. But it was unmistakably me. A version of me that had never laughed or cried or felt anything at all. It raised its hand, pressed it against the glass, and smiled. A smile that my face has never made. A smile with too many teeth. Teeth that went back further than teeth should go. Teeth that gleamed in the darkness like they were lit from within. I passed out. Woke up on the floor. The window was open. Cold air was pouring into my room. The fire escape was empty. The figure was gone, but on the glass, a handprint. From the inside, large, clear, pressed against the glass like someone had been leaning against it, looking out, or looking in. The handprint was smudged at the edges, like whatever had made it wasn't quite solid, wasn't quite real, but real enough to leave a mark, real enough to open my window, real enough to come inside. I don't know what it wants, don't know why it chose me, don't know how much longer I have before it stops watching and starts doing something else. But I know one thing, it started because I noticed it, because I looked when I should have looked away, because I let it know that I could see it. So if you ever see something watching you from a window, a figure that shouldn't be there, a silhouette that doesn't move, don't look, don't stare, don't let it know you've seen it. Because once it knows you can see it, it never stops looking back. I've tried everything, moved apartments, changed my routine, stopped walking dogs, stopped going out at night, stopped doing anything that might put me in its path. Nothing helps. Every night when the city goes silent, I know it's close. Every night, I wait for the tap on my window. Every night, I wonder if this is the night it stops watching and starts doing something else. My roommate thinks I've lost my mind. My family thinks I need help. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am crazy. But the handprint is still on my window, and when I look at it in certain light, I can see it's not quite human. The fingers are too long. The palm is too narrow. The texture is wrong. It's not a human handprint at all. It's something else. Something wearing a human shape, something learning how to be me. I don't know what it wants, but I think I'm starting to understand. It watched me for weeks before I saw its face. It learned my routines, my habits, my life. And when it showed me its face, it showed me my own. I think it's been copying me, studying me, becoming me. And one day it's going to be ready. And there won't be room for both of us anymore. I've thought about telling people, the police, a doctor, a priest, but what would I say? There's something wearing my face and it's following me everywhere. They'd think I was crazy. Maybe I am crazy. But then I look at the handprint on my window, and I know it's real. My roommate moved out last month, said she couldn't handle my paranoia anymore, said I needed help. She's probably right. But I can't leave my apartment, can't go outside at night. Because that's when it's strongest, that's when it's closest. So if you ever see something watching you from a window, a figure that shouldn't be there, a silhouette that doesn't move, don't look, don't stare, don't acknowledge it, just keep walking and pray it doesn't notice you noticing. Because once you're seen, you can never be unseen. I almost didn't notice the photograph. It was on the nightstand, face down, like someone had knocked it over and forgotten to pick it up. I reached for it without thinking. Part of my job is making sure everything looks perfect for the next guest. You'd be amazed at what people leave behind. Clothes, toiletries, half-empty bottles of expensive wine, photographs fall face down all the time. People knock them over reaching for their phone charger, knock them over getting out of bed, knock them over and don't bother to pick them up because they're on vacation and nothing matters. It's always part of the job. Straightening, arranging, making everything look perfect. So I picked up the photograph without thinking, without hesitation, without any idea that my life was about to change. When I turned it over, I stopped breathing, because the photograph was of me, standing in that exact room, taken from somewhere behind me. My name is Diana Torres. I'm 34 years old. I clean Airbnb rentals along the Santa Cruz coast. It's not glamorous work. Scrubbing toilets, changing sheets, making sure the houses are spotless for whoever's checking in next. I've been doing it for 3 years. 3 years of driving up and down Highway 1. 3 years of beautiful houses with ocean views. 3 years of washing away the evidence of other people's vacations. Most people don't think about who cleans their Airbnb. They check in, enjoy their weekend, leave a mess, and forget we exist. That's fine with me. I don't need recognition, I just need the paycheck. But it pays well, and I set my own hours. Most importantly, I'm always alone. No bosses looking over my shoulder, no coworkers to deal with, just me and the houses and the ocean outside the windows. There's something peaceful about cleaning an empty house. Everything has a place, everything has a purpose. You come in, you make things right, you leave. Simple, satisfying, safe. I liked being alone. I felt powerful in empty houses, like I was the only real thing in a space that was waiting to be filled. I don't feel that way anymore. Now I know the truth. Empty houses aren't always empty. And sometimes, the thing that fills them has been waiting for you. The photograph was impossible. I turned it over and over, looking for an explanation, hoping to find some detail that would make it make sense, a watermark that would tell me it was from a stock photo site, a crease that would suggest it had been carried here from somewhere else, anything. But the photograph was pristine, fresh, like it had been printed that morning. Maybe it was a previous cleaner. Maybe it was someone who looked like me. Maybe it was a prank, some elaborate joke by someone with too much time and a weird sense of humor. But the woman in the photo was wearing my clothes, my exact outfit, the jeans with the rip in the left knee, the gray hoodie from my high school, the white sneakers I'd bought last month. And she was standing in the exact spot where I was standing now, looking at something on the nightstand, looking at the photograph, the same pose I was making right now. As if the photograph had been taken seconds ago, as if someone was still in the room with me, watching. The timestamp on the back said the photo was taken yesterday. Yesterday? I'd never been to this house before yesterday. I'd never even known this house existed before the job came through. But there I was, in a photograph taken before I'd ever set foot in the room. I should have left, should have called my supervisor, should have done anything except what I actually did. But I didn't. I put the photograph back on the nightstand, finished the cleaning, locked up, drove home, tried to forget. But here's the thing about that photograph. I can't remember what happened after I found it. I know I finished the cleaning. I know I drove home. But the details are fuzzy, like trying to remember a dream. Like my brain recorded the events but forgot to save them. The next week, I got another job at the same house. The owners had requested me specifically. Said I'd done such a good job the first time. Said they'd never had a cleaner who was so thorough. I didn't remember being thorough. I didn't remember much of anything. But I needed the money, and some part of me wanted to go back, wanted to understand what was happening, wanted to find evidence that I wasn't going crazy. So I went back. Even though every instinct screamed at me to stay away, even though I knew deep down that something terrible had happened in that house, even though the gaps in my memory should have been warning enough. I went back. And that's when I found the notebook. The house was a beachfront cottage, small but expensive. The kind of place tech workers rent for weekend getaways. Gray shingles, white trim, big windows facing the ocean. From the outside, it looked like something from a postcard. Peaceful, inviting, the kind of place where nothing bad could ever happen. But something about the interior felt wrong. Something I couldn't quite identify. It should have felt cozy. It didn't. Something about the light was wrong. Too flat, too gray. Even with the curtains open, the rooms felt dark. Like the sunlight couldn't quite reach the corners. Like the shadows were thicker than they should be. Like something was absorbing the light before it could fill the space. I told myself it was the weather. Fog coming in off the ocean, clouds blocking the sun, normal coastal stuff. But deep down, I knew. Something was wrong with this house. Something had been wrong for a long time. I started in the kitchen, wiped down the counters, loaded the dishwasher, took out the trash, normal routine, everything normal, until I found the notebook. It was in a drawer by the sink, hidden under dish towels, like someone had put it there for me to find. Like someone had been waiting for me to look in exactly the right place. The notebook was ordinary, spiral-bound, college-ruled, the kind you buy at any drugstore. But when I opened it, I stopped breathing. The notebook was full of photographs, dozens of them, all of me, all taken in this house, all from angles that suggested someone was standing right behind me, watching me clean, watching me work, watching me exist without knowing I was being watched. I flipped through them slowly, hands shaking, heart pounding. Each photograph was worse than the last. Me in the kitchen, scrubbing the sink. Me in the bedroom, making the bed. Me standing at the window looking at the ocean. All taken from behind. All showing me completely unaware. All proving that I had been watched, that I had been hunted, that someone had been right there, close enough to touch me. And I had never known. The timestamps went back months, but I'd only been to this house twice. Unless I'd been coming here without remembering, unless something was bringing me back. Again and again, erasing my memory after each visit. I flipped through the photographs. Me in the kitchen, me in the bathroom, me in the bedroom. Me standing at the window, looking at the ocean. Me sitting on the couch with my head in my hands. Me crying, me screaming. Me sleeping on the floor. Each photograph more disturbing than the last. Each one showing me doing something I had no memory of doing. Each one proving that I had been here before, again and again, over and over, living an entire life that I couldn't remember. The last photograph was different. It wasn't me alone. There was someone else in the frame, standing behind me. A shape, a shadow, a figure with no face, just darkness where features should be. Darkness that seemed to move even in the still image. Darkness that felt like it was looking back at me through the photograph. I stared at the image for a long time, trying to understand what I was seeing, trying to make sense of something that made no sense at all. The figure was tall, taller than any person I'd ever seen. Its proportions were wrong, arms too long, shoulders too narrow, head tilted at an angle that would be impossible for a human neck. And where its face should have been, nothing, just void, just absence, just a hole in the shape of a person where light went in but didn't come back out. I dropped the notebook, ran for the door, grabbed the handle, pulled. It didn't open. I pulled again, harder, nothing. The door wouldn't move, like it was locked from the outside, like something wanted me to stay. I tried the windows, locked, the back door, locked, every exit sealed. I was trapped in a house where I'd been photographed dozens of times without knowing, trapped with whatever had been watching me. That's when I heard the camera. Click, from somewhere behind me. Click, click, click. I spun around. The house was empty. No one there. Just the kitchen. Just the notebook on the floor. Just the silence pressing against my ears. But on the kitchen counter, where nothing had been a moment ago, a new photograph, still developing, the image emerging slowly, like a bruise forming on pale skin, showing me, standing at the door, trying to escape, with that same faceless shadow behind me, closer than before, close enough to touch. I screamed, didn't mean to. It just came out. A raw animal sound. The sound of prey recognizing a predator. The click came again. Click, click, click. I don't remember what happened next. I woke up in my car, parked in my driveway. 4 hours had passed, 4 hours I couldn't account for. I sat there for a long time, trying to remember, trying to piece together what had happened. But there was nothing. Just a blank space where 4 hours should have been. Like someone had taken an eraser to my memory. Like someone had stolen part of my life. On my passenger seat was a new photograph. Me, unconscious in the driver's seat. The shadow sitting beside me. Close enough to touch. Close enough to do anything. And I had never known. I called in sick the next day. And the day after that, told my supervisor I had the flu, couldn't work, needed rest. What I really needed was to understand what was happening to me. I've stopped taking jobs, stopped going to Santa Cruz, stopped doing anything that puts me alone in houses. But it doesn't matter, because I keep finding photographs on my nightstand and on my kitchen counter, on my bathroom mirror, photographs of me in places I don't remember going, doing things I don't remember doing, with that shadow getting closer in every frame. I went to a doctor. They said I was having dissociative episodes, stress-related. They asked about my childhood, about my relationships, about any trauma I might have experienced. I told them about the photographs. They nodded sympathetically, wrote something in their notes. They gave me medication, told me to take it with food, told me to get more sleep, told me to reduce my stress. It doesn't help. The medication makes me drowsy, but doesn't stop the photographs from appearing. The sleep is interrupted by dreams I can't remember. The stress is impossible to reduce when you know something is watching you. I went to a therapist. She said I was creating false memories, processing trauma. She said the mind does strange things under stress, creates explanations for things it can't understand, fills in gaps with fiction. She said the photographs were probably real, but my interpretation of them was distorted. She gave me exercises, breathing techniques, journaling prompts, ways to ground myself in reality. They don't help either, because the photographs are real. I've had them analyzed. I've taken them to a photo lab, had them examine the paper, the ink, the development process. They're not doctored. They're not fake. They're genuine images of me in places I've never consciously been, with something that erases itself from my memory every time we meet. I don't know what it wants. Don't know why it chose me. Don't know how many times we've been together that I can't remember. But I found something yesterday. A photograph I hadn't seen before, hidden in my closet, under a box of old clothes. It was me in the shadow, standing together, like we were posing, like we were friends. And I was smiling. There was writing on the back. My handwriting, a message I don't remember writing. See you soon. So if you work alone, if you clean houses or watch properties or do any job that puts you in empty spaces by yourself, pay attention, document everything, take your own photographs before and after. Because if something's watching you, if something's taking you and bringing you back and erasing the evidence from your mind, the only way you'll know is if you leave proof for yourself. I've started wearing a body camera, recording everything, every minute of every day. I thought if I could catch it on video, I'd have proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that something was really happening. Proof that I could show to doctors and police and to anyone who might be able to help. But the recordings keep having gaps, missing hours, blank spots where there should be footage. The camera doesn't malfunction. The battery doesn't die. It's just gone. Hours of my life erased, like someone pressed delete on my existence. And in those gaps, new photographs appear, with me in them, with the shadow beside me. Getting closer, getting clearer, getting ready for whatever comes next. I found a photograph yesterday that scared me more than any of the others. It was me, standing in front of a mirror, looking at my own reflection. But the reflection was smiling, and I wasn't. I don't think I have much time left. But before I go, before I forget again, I needed to tell someone. I needed to leave proof. I needed to make sure that when I disappear, someone will know what happened. Someone will know what took me. Someone will know to look for the photographs, because they're everywhere, and I don't think I'm the only one. I've started researching, looking for other people with similar experiences, memory gaps, photographs that shouldn't exist, shadows that erase themselves. There are more of us than you'd think, forums full of people describing the same thing, waking up in strange places, finding evidence of time they can't remember, photographs, notes, bruises they can't explain, were being collected, documented, studied. And when they're done studying us, I don't know what comes next. Last night I found a new photograph. It wasn't taken in Santa Cruz. It wasn't taken in any house I've ever cleaned. It was taken in my bedroom. While I was sleeping, the shadow was standing at the foot of my bed, watching me sleep, close enough to touch, close enough to do anything. And I never knew. I slept through the whole thing. How many nights has it watched me? How many times has it stood at the foot of my bed? How many photographs exist that I haven't found yet? I don't think I have much time left. The gaps are getting longer. The photographs are getting closer. The shadow's getting clearer. Soon, there won't be any gaps at all. Soon, I won't remember anything. Soon, I'll just be another photograph in someone else's notebook. Another person who disappeared without explanation. Another name that no one remembers. But before I go, before I forget again, I needed to tell someone. I needed to leave proof. I needed to make sure that when I disappear, someone will know what happened. Someone will know what took me. Someone will know to look for the photographs. Because they're everywhere. Hidden in drawers, tucked behind mirrors, slipped between books on shelves, waiting to be found. Evidence of something that's been watching us all along. Something that erases itself from memory. Something that never stops taking. something that's been doing this for longer than anyone knows. And I don't think I'm the only one. If you work alone, if you clean houses or walk dogs or house sit or do any job that puts you in empty spaces by yourself, pay attention, document everything, tell someone where you're going, check in regularly, and if something feels wrong, if you find photographs that shouldn't exist, if you lose time you can't account for, get out, run, and don't look back. Because some things are always watching, even when we think we're alone, especially when we think we're alone.